This time we will call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Anson.
Here.
Trustee Doro. Here. Trustee Myers. Here. Trustee Landwehr.
Here.
Trustee Swenson.
Here.
Trustee Walschlager. Here. President Vanderstel.
Here. If you'd all rise, we're going to have a moment of silence for the fallen police officer in Milwaukee. Matthew Rittner was shot and killed not very long ago, as I'm sure you're all aware. So if you could just stand a moment of silence for him and his family. Trustee Swenson, please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I will turn it over to our fire chief, Chief Dean.
Thank you very much, Dave Dean, Fire Chief, Village of Hartland. It's an honor this evening to introduce one of our full-time members that was hired at the Village of Hartland, and I included tonight in your packet a little background on Johnathan. I'm not going to read it all. I just wanted to touch base a little bit on this decorated man that joined the Hartland Fire Department in 2014. And prior to that time, I wanted to just let you know that he's a highly decorated UH-60 crew chief who was transitioning from the U.S. Army to civilian emergency services. His tour of duty ended in 2014, and he joined the ranks in 2008. Served our country, has unbelievable experience, numerous awards. He was part of the Fort Bragg 122nd Aviation Support Battalion, 82nd Combat Aviation Brigade, and the 82nd Airborne Division. Saw many things in his in the field that many of us shouldn't have to see, and it's a tribute to Johnathan's attitude and his thankfulness and his encouraging willingness to help the Village of Hartland and the members that we serve and protect. And Johnathan comes to us again as an extremely decorated gentleman. As I hope you take time to see some of his decorations and awards I've included in his packet and his education. He's got many opportunities that he took advantage of learning and being educated, and I'm extremely proud to introduce him tonight. Johnathan Quint is our new full-time firefighter. Johnathan, if you could come up. His lovely wife Shayna, and wonderful son Dexter, whose favorite word I think is fire truck. Is that right, Dexter? Fire truck? Fire truck. So we'll have you come right up here. Fire truck. Did he say it? Yeah. Good. Miss Darlene, are you come over, and we're going to face this direction right over here, and you'll repeat after Miss Darlene.
If you would raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Johnathan Quint,
having been appointed
to
the position of paramedic
paramedic
with the Village of Hartland Fire Department,
with the Village of Hartland Fire Department,
swear that I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
that I will obey the ordinances of the Village of Hartland
that I will obey the ordinances of the Village of Hartland
and County of Waukesha,
and County of Waukesha,
and the rules and regulations of the Village of Hartland
and the rules and regulations of the Village of Hartland
and the Hartland Fire Department,
and the Hartland Fire Department,
that I will obey all of the lawful orders
that I will obey all the lawful orders
of my superior officers,
of my superior officers,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of my position
of my position
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The microphone's all yours.
Johnathan, anything you want to speak of? pressure.
Dave, can you move it this way so nobody hits their head on the TV screen?
I can't.
Thank you.
One step forward.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, citizens of Hartland and members of the Hartland Fire Department, I just want to say thank you for providing me with the opportunity to serve the community in this capacity. Very privileged, honored, and proud to be here today, and just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming.
One more quick note, we have cake and ice cream at the fire station in the Augie Wild classroom after the meeting. And for anyone now that would like to go down and jump in on EMS drill, you can certainly go down and take care of that and just save a piece of cake for all of us, 2 for me. I can relate to that.
Chief, I think it'd be appropriate that you can let everyone know that's only here for, that it is okay to go to the fire station now. You do not have to stay and watch the entire meeting. However, you are more than welcome to stay if you'd like.
Wait, they have to stay and watch you get cake.
Yeah, right, there you go.
Look, and see, they all leave because you
leave him
promised
here.
cake.
Yeah.
They say cute age and then they grow up.
Yeah, I took care of my grandson. He was sick and he was
At this time, if anybody wants to approach the podium for public comments for items that are not on the agenda, when an agenda item comes up, you can speak to that item when it comes up in the agenda. But for any items not on the agenda, if anybody wants to step forward and speak, and it doesn't appear that anybody wants to. So we will move to our first item on our agenda, which is a consideration of a motion to approve the special village board minutes of January 24th, 2019, and the village board minutes of the January 28th, 2019 meeting.
Also move first.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for both of those meetings. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
I abstained from one. I wasn't at one.
Okay, one, you got it. That motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is a consideration of a motion to approve the vouchers for payments in the amount of $7,343,691.91.
I so move we pay the bills for 7,343,692 and 91 cents.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve for that amount. I do believe that you meant 691.91, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of it is because we're paid to schools and everything, that's why I went.
Oh, yeah,
Just so,
yep. Yep. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is a consideration of actions related to the licenses and permits. We have a bartender's operator's license that expires June 30th, 2020 for Ann Gonzalez.
so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to grant that operator's license. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. That license is granted. The next item that we have on the agenda is the second reading of a bill for an ordinance 1-28-2019, an ordinance to amend Article 2 of Chapter 86 of the Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to water utility and wells. Again, this is the second reading.
You know, I think there's no reason, I'd like to make a motion, we suspend the rules and get it in, because
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded to suspend the rules. Any discussion on that? All in favor of suspending the rules? Aye. All opposed? The rules have been suspended.
now I move that we adopt Bill for an ordinance. I can't read it here, 128
2019.
201901.
I second.
No,
It's been moved and seconded to adopt, under suspended rules, to adopt the bill for an ordinance 128-2019, an ordinance to amend Article 2 of the Chapter 86 of the Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to water utility and wells. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That is adopted. That ordinance is adopted.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we have the first reading of a bill for an ordinance, number 2112019, an ordinance to amend Chapter 30 of the Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to the court.
So this is just your first reading, but this is, as I mentioned in the memo, the means by which the court just updates the membership list. Town of Sullivan has been added, Johnson Creek becomes a full member. Because all of that is listed in the ordinance, excuse me, the court asks that we just update it in this way.
Can we suspend the rules on that one, or doesn't it make that much difference?
I don't know that it makes that much of a difference to do it. I wouldn't, it's not urgent enough, I don't think, to suspend on the first reading.
Okay, then we'll leave it at that.
So with that being said, that first reading has been done. The next item on our agenda is discussion of a proposed donation of a large landmark flagpole and U.S. flag for Hartbrook Park by the Lake Country Rotary Club. Do we have someone here to speak to that?
Yeah,
Yep,
The mic is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you. I probably don't need it, but
No, probably not.
well, my name is Bob Mallow. I'm the president of the Hartland Lake Country Rotary Club. Lifelong member of the community. I live in the town of Merton now, but born and raised in Hartland, as my mother and father were. My grandfather was village president for many years at Dick's start of his tenure with the village, and I've felt very committed to be of public service. So about 3 months ago, Karen was Ordway, now it's Frederickson, Dave and Maggie's daughter, is very, very constant with a Facebook update. And our Rotary Club was looking for some sort of a significant item to put into or around the community. And on one of the comments, or one of the flags that was sitting about where Ma Johnson's restaurant would be, looking to the east, right downtown, and about where the American, or where the river goes next to the Bob Haight law office right there, there was a large American flag that was flying on one of the old pictures that were there. And one of the comments was, wouldn't it be nice to have another flag? And I said, you know what? That is just exactly one of the things that that I would love to spearhead. My mother and father are both war veterans in World War II. My both grandfathers in World War I. I'm a very active person in appreciation of veterans. My dad was a state commander for the American Legion, and these are things that hopefully in heaven they can look down and say, wow, this is Hartland. So what I did is approach Dave Cox and said, hey Dave, what are your thoughts on this? And we sat and talked a little bit and said, you know what, there's some potential with this, and why don't we get together with the park board and show them, you know, what the possibility or the probability could be. And they gave me the blessing to go ahead and do a little more research on it. And I got a call from Dave that said, you know, could I attend tonight to be on the agenda for the meeting? And I said, absolutely. So what the plan would be, and I've done some more research on it, there was some pushback, I'll even call it, from the Mike's, what's his position with Public Works?
the operations supervisor.
Operations supervisor, on the size of the flag and the maintenance. So what I did is I've gone to the flag company, and what the problem was is that on an 80-foot flag, if there was service that was necessary, we don't have, or the village does not have a facility or a tool that can service it. Well, what I found out is the village would not be servicing it, or nor the Rotary, but they actually have a service provided at a cost to replace the flag cord. And I shouldn't call it a cord because it's actually a cable, exactly right. It is a very, very sturdy cable, and the flag company that I actually got some pricing from is in Wauwatosa on 117th Street. So I went in there today and asked them, about the maintenance, and that was his large concern, if something needed to happen on it. And he said, they have a flag that's been, an 80-foot flag that's 25 years old, and they've had to remove or put a new cable in once. The cost of that today, they said, would be someplace between $300 and $400. And they actually have a person that shinnies the pole and does the work. So that is kind of a item that I was wondering how, they would do something, and there is somebody out there that actually does that. It's his business, well insured with work comp and general liability. So my recommendation to the board was to charge me to go ahead and get some sort of a design on what it would look like in a park setting. And they indicated that they would definitely, look at that, and that is something that I, would want to propose to the village board as well. And I I gave them 3 different bids on a 60, 70, and 80-foot pole. And because the service would be done by someone else, I would still recommend the 80-foot pole with the largest flag that's available to recognize the village of Hartland. They had thought initially, the 60-foot because of the service, but finding out service is available and services at a cost that I'm confident the Rotary Club would pay. Because in my proposal that I had given to the people on the park board was that we would give the flag to the village, give the pole to the village, and remove ourselves of any maintenance other than when a new flag needed to be purchased, that we would purchase a new flag for it. And I would amend that as well to say, in addition to the flag, if it needed a new cable, we would pay the provision to have the cable professionally redone. So that's pretty much that in a nutshell. We're looking at probably about a $20,000 project. And, Ann?
There would be a light on this light, correct?
There is, and I found that out today, and I've actually gone to an electric company to find out, and their recommendation is not to have the pole lit from a solar light that would be attached to the pole due to the vibration from the wind, and to have a ground pole that would go on at dusk and go off and dawn, just with a timer on it, and that is needed. As a matter of fact, it's a 24/7 program that has to have the light on it, so it's a good question. Any other questions?
The park board was in favor. Their biggest item was the fact that how would we handle it if there was any work to it. One question on that, when they raise it down a half-mast for different occasions, is that like, did you check with them how they do that? Is that electronic or?
It's not electronic, it's by hand.
It's by hand?
Yeah,
So we can do that up and down without any problem.
no problem whatsoever.
I just happened to think of that but the park board was in favor of it. They were just
I was very happy
wanting
with
to know
it.
how we were gonna maintain it.
Yeah, and this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. It'll be a fundraising project that we will put together. We may even have talked to Dave and say, is there a possibility of maybe putting a thermometer on fundraising on what the $20,000 or $22,000 has reached, and it'd be an open tax deductible contribution through the Lake Country Foundation, and it is something that I'm pretty excited about, and I want to stay excited about it.
And you wanted to have it all like in Hartbrook Park in the corner. I mean, that's where
That's where,
you thought it would be best.
I had mentioned something, and Dave and I sat and talked a little bit in his office, and he kind of thought also right at the corner of Hartbrook Drive and Ray Drive. I think that's Ray, isn't it, that goes right through there? So that would actually be, if you're going on into Ray, it would be the northwest corner, around with pine trees, right now kind of parallel Hartbrook Drive. And even a possibility of taking 1 or 2 of those pine trees out of there to have the flag in the middle to make it much more of a nice setting.
On an 80-foot pole, what size is the actual flag?
It's a good question. The proposal that we have here is a 15 by 25, but it will take a 20 by 30 as long as there's not another flag below it. See, this proposal actually shows that it'll take a 15 by 25, and you could put a 10 by 15 below it. So you could actually have a Village of Hartland flag, or a state flag, or a event flag, or something like that. I would not be in favor of that. The thing that I'm in favor of is just having an American flag. And I want it to be recognized when somebody's driving down Highway 16, hey, this is Hartland. You know, just like it was with American TV when you'd go by it when they had the big flag, or in Madison as you're going north on 9094, up on the hill they've got the big American flag. And if you're ever driving past in Wauwatosa, you know where the big water tower is, where the Mayfair Collection is right now? Right across the road is the flag company. It's called the Flag Center, and they do have the 80-foot flag up. That's their permanent flag. That's the one that they've only had to replace the cable on once. And they're flying right now a smaller flag on it because they had something else. I think they have a 12 by 18 on it right now. But I would certainly be in favor of the 20 by 30.
Well, that's a good spot for it, because you come in 16 and you can see it.
That's perfect. I'm going to take this one step farther. If this works out really well, and this is off the record, that I'd like to have another one right about where the Rotary clock is in downtown Hartland, where Ma Johnson's was, and have another flag right there. So it's actually downtown, and it's on the outer edge of town, and kind of Flag City. So that is my presentation. Any other questions that anybody has?
I have a question. Isn't there a Arrowhead student or some scouting unit that want to put up some kind of memorial? And I thought that was going to have a flag on it too. And I just wondered, is that going to be anywhere near this where they're trying to put this, or is that thing just blowing in the wind?
Wasn't that Nixon Park?
Right, that's
Yeah.
scheduled for Nixon Park, where the existing memorial is now by the baseball field. But that is a little bit stagnant right now, let's call it.
So there's no problem with this?
It wouldn't conflict
Conflicting.
or, no, draw away from, no.
I would think the best thing to start it off to, in my own opinion, would be to get that one in Hartbrook Park.
Absolutely.
And then put in mind that maybe we can do something.
You know, it might be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years
Yeah.
down the road. You know, when you talk about the baseball field at Nixon Park, I played football up there in high school, by the way. That was before Arrowhead.
So today, what you wanted to ask tonight, you wanted to just ask and make sure that you had some backing?
Exactly right, Jeff. Just some backing that we can go ahead and get a design. And then when everything is ready, we would present it to the park board, to the village board, and hopefully somebody would say, let's go.
I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yep.
It stands out a lot when people are driving on 16, and it's gonna be
Be
right,
perfect.
it's gonna be right there.
Yep.
That
There's
freeway.
a lot of traffic on 16.
It's about
yeah.
30 or 40 feet up from the ground, and you're gonna have that flag is just gonna be waving right there as you're
Right.
driving in, and you'll be able to see it from a ways off. So I think it's at least something that says, hey, we're here.
Absolutely. Hey, did you see the flag in Hartland?
Yep.
You know, that's
Yep.
the, Dick, you had a question?
No, that took care of that. I was just wondering with Hartbrook Park, what end of it, I thought maybe where the Hartbrook sign is, but you gotta check that out to see where it'd be more.
And apparently there's some sort of guideline that we have to have working with the Department of Transportation as well. So we'll have to get all of the i's dotted and the t's crossed, and
I mean, if you got one that big, it's gonna be a bump. It's not gonna, I mean, you're gonna see it
gonna
from
be
either
awesome.
direction. you know.
you're going to see it.
You'll be able to see it from your house.
Yeah, and if you could, I mean, obviously, we would double check it, but if you could find out, see if you can put some feelers out there and find out from them just on what the setback would be, because they might say, you know, the edge, if it was flying, you know, fully, you know, it has to be this far away,
Right.
just so we don't run those complications down the road. Anything you could find out would be fantastic. It helps us in the long run.
Absolutely. we're just in the very, very early planning stages of it,
Yep.
and we just wanted to all of a sudden not get it planned, and somebody said, no, you guys. Yeah. But that's all I have, and I appreciate the time in your meeting, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Keep us posted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob, I got one thing. You get involved with Karen on any of these pictures? You know, I don't have a Facebook that I can put stuff on, but she had the downtown Hartland. She put in there, she wondered what that empty building was in between the bank and the river.
Yeah, I saw
That's
that.
a post office, or that was a shoe shop.
Oh, really?
And then it was in a restaurant.
Because I remember the post office when it was over at Norm's.
Yeah, no, that was a shoemaker.
Okay.
And then it turned into a little restaurant for a little while, and then the bank took it over. But
Gotcha.
just for the,
I remember the shoes. I wanted those Buster Browns that came with a little toy and they.
You know, you
didn't have 'em.
drive through Hartland today, and it's a big change. And it's really, really exciting to see basically every night, you know, the cars filling the restaurants and the other businesses and things like that, because as Dick knew when I grew up, it was just a little suitcase town, and it, you know, just,
Now it's hustling and bustling.
now there's activity, exactly right, so.
Well, thank you very, very much for
Thank you.
coming in. Thank you. Thank you. Our next item on our agenda is the update from the Waukesha County Center for Growth and consideration of a motion to approve a one-year extension of the Waukesha County Center for Growth agreement. And we do, yep, there, Tim's here.
Mr. President, members of the board, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. Had some questions when we were with you last time that we said we would respond to, and to that end, I had an opportunity to meet with the village administrator, I believe that was last week. I think I mentioned last time that when we work, especially with small businesses and our small business development staff, we enter into an agreement with each and every one of those businesses, and we agree to keep their information confidential. Obviously, we're talking about the ownership structure of business, we're talking about their finances, we're talking about their plans for the future, hence the reason for confidentiality. Once we've completed a project with a business, typically we'll ask them to sign off on an agreement that then allows us to share that information, including the name of the business. It's my understanding from the small business development staff in Madison that something more than 90% of the small businesses ultimately, when we've gotten through the project, will sign off and say, sure, you can go ahead and use my name. We then use that to tell success stories, if you will, about companies that we've worked with, and I passed out last time, I won't do that again, but in our annual report, we have some of those success stories from the preceding year. So obviously, since we just finished up with a lot of those companies that we worked with in 2018, and we're still working with many of them going forward, we're not in a position to share those names, but I did share those names with the village administrator. We went through a list of the 7 small businesses that we worked with, again, keeping that information in confidence, and talked about several other businesses that I've worked with that are more medium and large-sized businesses, and several businesses that our Director of Talent Development has worked with to assist them in finding potential sources of labor force. I will mention one of the gentlemen that we did work with last year was Tom Doms, who is a Village of Hartland resident that I believe David is familiar with. Has been active in baseball and other circles here. And I asked Tom, I had been involved in that project along with Lucy Waldhuter, our small business consultant. And I asked Tom if it was okay if I shared his name, and he said yes. And I'll just tell you that story quickly. He's, as I mentioned, a Hartland resident, was interested in creating his own business. He's a cabinet maker by trade. So we helped him spiff up his business plan, prepare for financing, apply for financing, and ultimately get approval from the Small Business Administration to finance the acquisition of a business. He was looking at creating his own, then he looked at an opportunity to acquire the business that he's currently working in. That loan was approved towards the end of last year, and then because it was a Small Business Administration loan, was held up by the federal government shutdown. So he literally just closed on that project on Monday, received his loan, and he's moving forward with the acquisition of the business. Tom's working in the business himself. It's called Lake Country Custom Cabinets. He's got another employee, and he tells me he's actively looking for another employee beyond that, and will be working with our Director of Talent Development on that capacity. So we were able to share those names with the village administrator. The other question that was asked about was about contact with the chamber. I did reach out to Lynn Minturn. She and I had a chance to talk a few days ago, and then there was a follow-up phone call, as Lynn suggested. She indicated she's busy on a couple of major events right now, would prefer to meet at a later time, but we talked on the phone, and then I was contacted by Edith Peterson, who I believe is a member of the chamber board, and is playing a role in terms of their Cafe University program, which is their morning program to share information that would be helpful to small businesses. So Edith, I sent some information to her via email, and she indicated that they're kind of booked up right now, but sometime in the next few months, they'll get us on the schedule for Cafe University, and I'll come in and just give a 5-minute spiel on what we are, turn it over to Lucy, who will then talk about how we do our small business consulting, and hopefully we'll see that, as we have in several other communities, that some businesses will be interested in at least exploring what services we might be able to provide to them. That's really all I had, other than one of the services that we do provide that I think I mentioned last time is a search. We do searches on a regular basis for businesses that are looking for space. Had an opportunity to update a search this morning just to see what's out there currently. I shared that information via email with David and with the village president, but brought a copy of that along as well. And just to give you a sense of how it's kind of a tight market here, as of this morning on the Commercial Association of Realtors Wisconsin database, we're showing 6 industrial spaces in 3 buildings, but they're only ranging from 2,400 to 4,000 square feet for a total of about 17,000 square feet available. On the office side, doing a lot better. There's 11 spaces in 3 buildings ranging from a small of 600 square feet. There's a number that are at 750, up to a high of about 3,700 square feet, again for a total of about 17,500 square feet. So my comment in the email is I think you've got a good range of office space available in a range of sizes, very tight on the industrial side. And I will tell you that we deal with more industrial prospects than any other type of prospects. And typically, a small requirement is 6,000 or 7,000 square feet. A lot of people are looking for 10. A lot of people are looking for 20,000 square feet or more, 30,000 square feet. We just don't have those spaces available in Hartland right now, and I think that's a challenge. There's 2 retail spaces, one of 1,300 square feet and one of 3,400 square feet. There's only one property currently listed for sale in that database in the village. That's the church at 415 West Capitol. And there's only one site available on the industrial side for sale, a 2.6 acre site in Bark River Business Park. And I know that's something that Dave and I have talked about in the past. You know, can we find more land that might be developed? Is there an opportunity to start thinking in terms of some redevelopment? As I say, a lot of the prospects that we work with are on the industrial side. So it is a tight market out there. I'll share this with David. There's a lot of detail in these searches, and the broker's listing sheets are as well. So that's all I had. I'd be happy to answer any questions or.
Sure, I just wanted to toss out the, I did make a few phone calls, talked to some other people in the county, some people that were, you know, assisted in, or I think were even on the boards and committees and getting things started. However, it's been 3 years, right?
What's that?
3 years?
Yeah.
It's been.
2.5 years.
And, yeah.
2.5 years.
So,
Right.
one of the things that came up in those discussions was that it isn't necessarily, for the Center for Growth, it is not, it's not necessarily just looking at your own community. It's actually a county-wide push is what it is to bring business in.
Right.
And it's the hope that all the municipalities would get on board. The county puts up a huge chunk, and then the municipalities are putting up, you know, other chunks depending on what they have of money, of funding. And it sounds like to buy into it is to buy into coordination, as in if the county does good and the surrounding areas around you do good, obviously that's going to affect your community. If someone builds in Merton and someone builds in Delafield, people are going to be driving through Hartland and might stop, get something to eat. So it in some way impacts the village. And I think that's the biggest question to juggle. My biggest question that I have is in the 2.5 years, could you just for myself answer, I know you said last time you were here in Delafield that you were on their budget and all of a sudden it ended up getting chopped.
Yeah.
But how come the other communities have not bought in?
Well, we do have, at this point, 13 municipalities
Right.
that have bought in. And Delafield, as I mentioned, the mayor and the public works director there had proposed it in the budget. They were facing a tough budget year, and it was amended out
Right.
by council action. Obviously, we'll stay in touch with Delafield. I think what we're finding, Mr. President, is, first of all, the 13 that are in all have the capacity to do economic development. Whoever it was you talked to, it is a collaborative model.
Mhm.
The county puts up $250,000 annually.
Yep.
All of the municipalities that will contribute this year, if all of them ultimately come through, is $145,000. So the $6,600 from the village, I think that's the number, I'd have to look at my
Pretty close,
notes,
yeah.
represents 1.66% of our revenue.
Mhm.
Obviously, the county is roughly two-thirds of our revenue.
Right.
So the idea is for a collaborative model, and if we build capacity in all the communities, and if we do economic development, obviously, people can live in one community, work in another, and we're trying to grow the whole economy. I think what we're going to get down to in the next several years, hopefully, as we continue to grow the effort, is we're going to get to the communities that really feel like, okay, we've got a business park, we've got an industrial park, we've got a downtown, we've got commercial areas, we've got the capacity to do economic development. We want to work with the Center for Growth, we want to work with the realtors, we want to work with the developers, we want to work with M7, we want to work with WDC to keep our existing businesses healthy and growing and to bring new opportunities to the community. I've said from the outset, most of the towns, and I've met with many of them, look me in the eye and say, Tim, we don't have sewer and water, we don't have an industrial park, and we want to maintain our rural character.
Okay.
There's really nothing to work with there.
Right.
I mean, and by their comprehensive plan, they want to maintain their rural character.
Okay.
And the other thing is some of the communities around you and west of you on Lake Country, places like Shaniqua and others may have literally no commercial whatsoever. And again, while you can talk about, isn't it nice if we all help, grow the county, it might be nice in theory, but people don't see an opportunity for them to benefit from it directly. So we've got 13 communities. I think ultimately if we get to the point where we've got 16 or 18 and maybe 20 at the high end, and they're the communities that have business parks, have industrial parks, have a downtown, have a business space, want to take advantage of the services that we can provide in support of their efforts, that's about where we're going to get. I don't expect most of the towns or most of the high-end dominantly residential communities in Lake Country to become a part of the effort. I hope they do,
Okay.
and some of them may, but I suspect most of them won't.
I thought that maybe that would be the objective. I thought it was.
Yeah, well,
would be the hope, so I was wondering why they didn't, but I suppose, yeah, if they can't service it, so then
So
it's just the communities that do have the
Right,
space.
so if we've got 37 municipalities, in my mind, we've got about 20 of them that have a business base and want to work to grow it.
See, but we don't have any room.
Right.
That's where our
Right.
problem is.
That's what we need to work on, in my opinion.
Well, then we're at the next Shaniqua.
So, we've got, in total in Waukesha County, we've got 84 million square feet of industrial space. We're running about 2.5% vacancy. And again, David and I have talked about this a little bit. It's something I'd like to spend more time on. Is there something we're overlooking? Quite frankly, we haven't had the conversation about is annexation possible, but is there a site somewhere of 4 acres, 6 acres that might be, we might be able to bring online? You look at the city of Waukesha right now, they're really in a redevelopment mindset because their city boundaries are pretty well set now with the Great Lakes Water Compact. They really don't have the opportunity to annex adjoining areas anymore. So they're in a redevelopment mindset. Where's an underutilized parcel, or where's 2 parcels that we could put together and make a more developable site?
See, like Delafield, they got a lot of open space around their area, where we just don't have anything. Not that
Well,
I'm
that's
against
where my
it.
concern comes up. So Delafield chops it from their budget, and there's a lot of us that have bought into the
Yeah.
model and said, hey, let's help out, because if it helps the area, it's gonna collectively help all of us. But the people that it's gonna help the most kind of sometimes bow out, which is unfortunate.
Well,
It
you gotta-
is, it's unfortunate.
You gotta have a place to put them.
No, I know,
No.
but they'll all go to Delafield, but Delafield doesn't have them in their budget.
Yeah, but
They said-
we can't overlook the fact that they're, contrary to the media, informing the kids that they don't all have to go to college and get some degree in
that way.
underwater basket weaving or something. That there
That's not
are
this.
professions that don't require college, like plumbing, electrician.
Well, the thing,
welding.
the thing that bothers me
That's
most
it.
is
Yeah.
I look at, and just listening to your presentation here, is we only have we don't have any land, we just have some retail places that you're working with Dave with, trying to fill them up. And then I'm looking here at Delafield that's got the whole world, and you're charging them $3,900. Then you're looking over here at Pewaukee that's got a whole bunch of stuff, and that's $4,800. And then you're looking at poor little Merton that doesn't have anything, and you're charging them $2,000, but you get the big Hartland that's only got a few retail places, and we're at $6,600. I don't understand why we have to pay the freight for these other people.
It's because of they have an equation set up for based on how much you have when it comes to industrial and stuff like that. We have a big industrial park. So if you have more
It's-
industry, they charge you more because they're helping those businesses so much. But that's where the balance comes on whether
The
they're
formula
helping
was
them.
developed 80% on population and 20% on the percentage of business park and
We just don't
industrial
have
park
room.
space yet.
We just don't have any room. I mean, it's like.
Right.
Right.
So
We just
the two that are closest to you are Village of McGuanago at 6,100 and Village of Sussex at 6,800.
Yeah, how many miles away are they? You're gonna develop those two, but what about us?
But you know, those two areas got a lot of open space.
Yeah, I don't
I
see
mean-
why we should
Well-
put the bill for
If I could
Yeah?
just pass one other thing out. You mentioned, we
No,
talked a
not
little bit last time about the schools. Since we met last time, this just came out. We're doing a workforce readiness dashboard for all of the school districts in Waukesha County, and this goes beyond just ACT scores. When you promote yourself to businesses and prospective businesses, one of the things that's typically talked about, obviously, is the high-quality schools we have in Waukesha County. And the only measure we've really had of that is ACT scores. So our folks on the talent development side worked very closely with the superintendents of all the school districts and came up with, okay, what are some of the other measures that talk about career readiness and life readiness that the students have been exposed to as they've gone through high school? So you'll see the GPA, you'll see the ACT, you'll see the portion who completed college credits and those who were accepted to a 2 or 4 year university. But then you also see how many of the students participated in career exposure activities, in this case 100% in the Arrowhead District. How many did a work career-based learning experience? About a third earned at least one industry certification. You can see the numbers there. Total number of courses in construction and skilled trades, healthcare, manufacturing, IT, engineering. How many were accepted in the armed forces? And then life skills, attendance rate of 90% or higher. Do you care enough to show up? 98.5% in this district, pretty darn good. Completed at least one financial literacy course, 85%. Participated in 2 or more school-sponsored activities, 76%. Completed 25 or more verified hours of community service. We're going to have these for every school district. We're going to have them as part of the information we can share with businesses and prospective businesses. We're going to have them posted on our website. This was no small task for our staff and for the superintendents to come to this, agree on this format and to be able to share this information. What it's going to allow us to do is say to businesses, hey, here's your school district and the other school districts in the area. These students have been exposed to career and life skills and opportunities and experiences, and they're ready to work.
So this is always what Arrowhead's doing, correct?
Yeah, this is Arrowhead in conjunction with us. We developed this.
Okay.
Right.
You developed the form,
Yep,
but Arrowhead did the training.
correct, yes.
Okay.
And again, it's another measure besides just an ACT score.
Okay.
So it's something that businesses are very interested in.
You've answered my questions, thank you.
Okay.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
for my own questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else has any other questions or wants to do anything or, you know, what.
Well, I'm gonna put it on the table then. I'm gonna move that we approve the, 1-year extension of the agreement.
All right. I'm gonna second it, and I'll tell you why. It's been moved and seconded. I'm seconding it because I think since it's in a contract and it's asking for a continuation, I think that it's important to be voted on. I will say I have some serious reservations with it. Obviously, you know how I'm voting because I seconded it, and I'm not gonna do the reversal. I've talked with the county and Paul Decker. We'll be keeping a really close eye on to see how much it benefits, but and I think that that's great that you came up with the you know, like this thing for Arrowhead, those guys are gonna get loaded. We know that we have outstanding schools, and we do, and I'll come out and say it. This area has the best schools there are. Hartland Lakeside, Swallow, you know, Merton schools, all over Lake Country. There's a lot of great schools, but we up here are second to none. It's just the way it is. That's the way they rank them. But they're gonna have to go to somewhere else to work, because all the jobs here are full, and we don't have anywhere else to really build other things. But at any rate, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. I suppose I should have said that first.
Well, that's my only concern. You can work on it, will you?
I know, I can't even, there's no basis to tell what, if there wasn't this,
See, Arrowhead.
what would happen.
Yeah, Arrowhead is great. Now, Arrowhead covers the Merton and Delafield and the areas where they get kids and they got development. But we can't put a factory up in Hartland.
Right, no, I know.
You know.
Well, and at Arrowhead too, and I've looked into it, so a lot of the, there's people that go in there, and having two kids there, I can say, they go in there, even the labor unions, they go in there and have kids come in, you know, they'll open up the cafeteria and they'll meet. They have different programs that they run where, you know, obviously the military goes in there a lot of times, but there are people that go in there, and this seems like more of a tracking, but it's not the program itself that's making these statistics be what they are. It's just tracking those statistics. But I think a lot of these we have, for instance, 2% of that are accepted in the armed forces. I'm guessing Arrowhead has those statistics. This is just putting it on a piece of paper, like a dashboard.
Yeah, it's the first time that those sets of measures have been agreed upon by all of the school districts, and they're all reporting them out, and they'll all be on our website, so that
Okay.
what we can say something more than just we have good ACT scores.
Right, okay. All right. So it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Did you get them all?
Can I do a roll call? To be clear?
Sure. I think it was just random. But yes, we can do a roll call, sure.
Let's do a roll call. Trustee Anson?
Nay.
Trustee Durrell?
Nay.
Trustee Myers?
Nay.
Trustee Landwehr?
Nay.
Trustee Swenson?
Aye.
Trustee Walshiger? Nay. And President Vanderstel?
Yes,
Okay,
for when
so-
you're with a
Okay.
close watch on it.
All right, so it is.
So
now-
that fails.
Thank you for your
Thank you
consideration.
very much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is discussion and consideration of a motion to prohibiting parking on the east side of Progress Drive south of Cardinal Lane to the easterly entrance to the Public Works facilities.
I think that's a good idea, unless
The
you want to
businesses are having
discuss.
trouble?
You guys have been talking about this,
Yeah.
Mike and Dave, and the PD
Well,
just had to
that's-
go, but they've been part of this conversation as well.
Sounds like a good
My
idea.
English teacher's mad at me because I wrote "to prohibiting." Obviously, I had two different thoughts in my mind that should say "to prohibit."
I didn't do that on
I know.
purpose. It sounded
It's right there,
incorrect, and so
and
it
because
threw
it
me
was
for a loop.
incorrect, I'm sorry, Mrs. Young.
And she's watching right now. Hi, Mrs. Young.
That's right, sure she is.
So we had a business owner approach us about issues he's had with getting trucks into his dock.
Yep.
We've also had observed going to and from the shop, obviously it's right by us, vehicles having a hard time getting through and our own equipment getting through certain times of the days and weeks. So that's why we've put this on the agenda and asked the board to approve the restriction of parking on the east side.
It looks like the right thing to do. If the businesses can't get trucks in at certain times.
Trying to back into one of these businesses the other day. So I am seeing that, would like to make a motion that we approve the no parking signs on the east side of Progress Drive.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda. The next two items. Considerations of actions related to the replacement of pedestrian bridges. First item, review of bridge options, including the park board recommendations and selection of a bridge type and determination of which bridge will be replaced this year.
We have bridges in the capital improvements plan to be replaced. All of the bridges that we have currently have had temporary repairs made to them for rusting beams. Those repairs were made roughly 5 years ago. We're changing the order by which we're going to replace those bridges due to the budgeting of repaving the alley between Golden Leash and Palmer's. It makes sense to replace that bridge before others so that the new pavement can match into it, and we're not going to be disturbing new pavement to replace the bridge. The other one would be Nixon Park over the river on the south side of the park. We're recommending that we use a metal girder bridge versus a wood bridge. We looked at the wood bridge, but they need maintenance every 2 years, resealing. So the bridges we currently have that are metal and that we're going to be replacing with a similar type, near as we can tell, they're well over 30 years old. So they'll have a long life.
You said they were metal?
They are.
Did you recommend wood bridges for the other place then? Why would we go to metal now if you guys made us spend over $40,000 more for a wood bridge with a roof?
That was more for aesthetics, and that's not wood, it's that composite.
Okay, semi-wood.
It's plastic.
He was referring to how much more it costs to go to the
Oh.
plastic wood.
But a lot of that was the covered bridge. It's still got a steel girder underneath. But I can't speak to why they made that
I think in
recommendation.
that instance, it was an aesthetic we were going for,
Yeah.
and then trying to do the best we could to keep maintenance down by going to the plastic wood.
So the maintenance is gonna be more on the plastic wood than the metal though? Than the.
No,
he
more
just-
on the wood than the plastic.
Yes, but so then why did we go with the wood back here for aesthetics so that we could pay more?
No,
That's
that's a
plastic.
plastic wood. What we're talking about now is a real wood product that would require maintenance every other year.
These are steel bridges, I thought.
That is that's what we're recommending, but
That's the
they're
alternative.
much more expensive. They are more expensive. They're a little bit more expensive, as I showed you that note, and the materials, the note summarizes the materials, but the metal bridge is a little bit more expensive on its own, and then we have to pay to have it set. And that's really what changes the price fairly dramatically.
When I saw that on the agenda, bridges, I thought, oh boy, took us a year to get the bridge we got up almost. Yeah.
Dick, when did those bridges go in?
Oh, God, we talked about that, and it's, I bet you 35, you've been here for over 30 years.
32 years it was there. I see a bridge in the 1970 aerial from the county at the south end of Nixon Park. I don't know if that's been replaced since then, but it may go back that far.
Well, that's what I would say when we talked about it, it's way over 30 years. We haven't done anything but go across it.
Well, and either or, they need to be
Yeah.
replaced.
Correct.
We decide what we're gonna replace them with,
Correct.
whether they're 20 or 30 or 60 or 215.
Yep.
They need to be replaced. They're not safe and they need to be widened.
Yeah, were we gonna widen them as,
Correct.
yeah, okay, that was the thing I was gonna ask.
Are we gonna run into the same problem we had when we came up with these pretty roofed bridges, that we had to redo the pilings for the bridge because things had changed? It cost us an extra, what, $20,000?
We're proposing not changing the structure that it sits on, other than possibly cutting it down so that we can keep the bridge height down
Lower?
on Palmer's, so that we can blend in for ADA accessibility. We do not want to do anything in the river, because the permitting and whatnot gets quite
So
complicated.
we can do that for sure
We
without
It's
any
been
can.
problem.
checked and it'll support
Yeah.
everything?
Yes.
Who checked it?
Jim Gendusa came out and looked at it. Jim is a structural engineer,
Yeah.
Okay.
and he'll redo his calculations once we know the specific bridge, but
Okay, and it'll also be widened, so vehicles and,
No.
or.
Not
Oh,
vehicles.
oh, oh. So
Wow.
two people can walk past
Yeah,
it.
it'd be more ADA accessible.
Yeah.
They'll be 6 feet.
Okay, but I thought you wanted something that, like with a brush, knock
We
off
can also
snow.
do that with the tractor, but it will not be anything other than maintenance.
Yeah, we don't want any
Okay.
cars riding on there, I don't
Right
think.
now, don't you have to hand shovel the?
We do,
Okay.
yes.
Dave, the engineer said that we're in the plus on that too. I mean, they're more than capable of handling,
right,
right?
right.
So we're good. there.
So I'll make a motion to approve the metal bridge, because in the long run we'll save more on, sorry, I'll just make the motion. I'll make the motion to approve the replacement using the metal bridges and using Ford Construction with the current pilings in place. If that changes, obviously that'd be outside of the motion I'm making.
I second.
I said,
It's been moved and seconded.
Is this all for this year?
Two bridges.
No, we're gonna get to that in a second.
Okay.
That way it forces it coming back to us
Right.
if the pilings, all of a sudden they say, okay,
Well,
can't
that's
support
a
the weight.
question. You got a first and a second on it, so.
Yep, okay, so any other discussion on it? All in favor?
aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, metal. That motion carries. The next part of that we have is a consideration of motion to authorize approval of a contract for bridge manufacture and installation. I guess that was the, help me out here. Did we just
You
make the
sort of blended them
motion?
together.
Okay, so we're good then. Never mind.
Metal bridges are from Wheeler. That's what I understood in your motion. And you mentioned specifically Ford for the install of the, for the actual setting of the bridge. We had another price from CW Propero, but that was more expensive. The caveat you added to your motion was that it has to be the existing abutment. So if something changes
Yep.
in the calculations that the structural engineer does, then we have to come
Bring
back.
it back.
Yeah.
A modification of the current, but if they all of a sudden have to go digging down, they ran into it, I think, when they did that original bridge. It was just that soil wasn't strong enough, or the covered bridge. They started going down and all of a sudden realized they had to go farther
Which
down
should
and
have
like
been
it
checked
come back
first,
to us. So, but thank
Can
you
I
very
ask a
much.
question?
You may.
But is this the order then we're gonna do it in? We're gonna start with the one by Palmer's, is that correct?
That is correct.
That's what you,
I just am clarifying that,
Yes.
so everybody knows, okay.
And specifically because of the paving that's scheduled
And
for
that
this
is
year.
scheduled to happen
No.
this summer?
Yes, well, it's going out to bid right now,
It's right out now, yeah.
and that alley is included in the paving bid.
Okay.
can you, I would like you, obviously this has already been voted on, so this is
Sure.
throwing in a question a little bit outside of our rules, so I'll make it really quick. Can, otherwise I'll go and probably run it by Dave tomorrow, but can you look, I know you're busy, but can you look at options for having any type of lighting on that bridge?
I think
mean,
there was,
If you,
there
you don't have
was
to do
some
it
of
right
the
now, I'm
original-
just saying, could you look into that,
Jerry
because
put some
otherwise we're
up.
gonna have to do
Jerry
something
put some
about
on the
lighting.
building, and I believe the original plans that I saw conduit from his building to
Right.
the bridge, and some type of outlet structure on the bridge, but it didn't necessarily include anything on the bridge.
Right,
But I
could you run
believe-
it by any
Sure.
of these bridge manufacturers, they might know,
Well,
you know-
it's, I would run it more by the engineer who
Okay.
drew the plans
whoever
up
might
and-
know about
'Cause
lighting
that's-
on the bridge.
That's dark down there.
It would be nice, especially.
dark.
Because I was there Saturday, and when you leave at 9 o'clock at night, it is dark.
Yeah, it's.
And if you're walking across that bridge, it would be nice to have a light there.
I will verify that, but I recall something about having conduit from his building to the bridge.
Okay.
So that we can get, will both of those be done,
street light.
completed this year?
Yes,
Okay,
There's one.
that's the plan, Dick.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion and determination of direction related to a columbarium in the cemetery. I almost mispronounced that.
Yeah.
Almost.
So, I don't know if you guys want to kind of step forward and the board has some information on this, and Ryan, you don't put the packet up on there, do you, or just the agenda? On the board? Is that just the agenda? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't understand this.
These are all our ideas, correct?
So, there's really a few things to be considered here, or there, I suppose, up in the cemetery. We're making an assumption, we're proposing, we've had it in the agenda, on the budget for a few years now, to put a columbarium up in the cemetery. Of course, a columbarium is for, oh yeah, thank you, Ryan. Columbarium is an above-ground storage place for cremated remains. And, you know, so it's this sort of center, come I hate not having a little hand to grab with.
At one time, when they originally started this, there was gonna be a chapel on the west end, along with these places. I don't know how far you went.
Well, we've
With
got our
what
church
chapel?
up there.
Church is right there.
Well, we've got our church right there.
We haven't
I
went-
know, I'm asking, when it first came up to put one on the west end of the Hartland Cemetery, that somebody that proposed one had a chapel in there, and it never went any farther.
Yeah,
I'm just
no.
asking whether or not,
We're not talking about that.
yeah.
But staff really kind of had some time with tribute companies, and we talked about a couple of different designs. We looked at a couple of different concepts. That's all the materials that you have in the packet of information that we provided to the board. It really comes down to a few questions. A, does the board want to provide storage space above ground for remains? And then, how much do we want to do and how do we want to get into it? We put a couple of concepts in front of you. I think that the reality is staff is probably focused on one of two layouts, I would call it. Where is it, guys? If we were talking about the upper cemetery, we're probably talking about something that's more linear along this line, or even this sort of layout.
Which one are you pointing to?
The one on the right here.
How many
How many spots are we
slots?
talking? Because that was kind of confusing to me as
Yeah,
well.
how many spots you got in there? Or how many units, or whatever you call them, drawers, or?
Niches. Niches.
Tombs.
You could make it however you want it.
I mean,
That's the deciding factor.
Well, how many do
Each
you guys
one
think that we
holds
Well,
between 20 and 50.
We
Let me
wouldn't want to
back-
put 20 or 50. So the pictures we're seeing, I mean, that's a lot more than 20 or 50, right?
The
That's
i-
correct.
the
We're not
idea
going on
here
that
would be
scale.
that you would start out with a series of 2 or 4, and as those sold out, you would then
Phase
have
them
the money to.
I like that idea.
To build the next 2,
Two
or 1, you know.
or one, fine.
You know,
Because money's tight.
No, absolutely.
We're going to have a lot of air.
and you don't want to have an overabundance of sites. You want to have enough to fill in and then move to the next construction. The
How much? are we-
base would be put in, to put them all in, you have to have pilings and things. So the groundwork would be done, but you would phase them as you sold them out.
I don't know how full St. Charlie's is.
I have a question for Darlene or Dave.
Yeah.
How many requests have we had for this type of service? In the last year?
We don't really have
Deals with
requests
that
for it
more.
because it's not something that we have available. There are a few
Yeah.
people who have their names on a waiting list, if you will, but we do have a lot of cremains.
They're becoming very popular. And Tribute Company does quite a bit of this.
It'd be
And becoming their
interesting.
more,
Is there
their
any other company that does this?
We just use them because they're local, just for initial
design.
design.
this would be probably bid
I
out.
think to
like-
make this easy, I think what they're asking is, do we want to move forward?
Right.
Or do we just
Yeah.
not even want to do it?
But
I
we
do
do get
agree
more
it does
than-
save space for those of us, like myself, that are going in the ground. So that all of a sudden you don't have a bunch of ashes in the ground. Well, no, it does.
Right,
We're limited on
absolutely.
space.
Well, and they said it's also, Tribute says this is a marketing tool also. So people are gonna wanna come to see what you put up for a design.
That's why I say I'm interested to see
But I want to
how,
make sure whatever, all the people that go in there, that
Yeah.
it covers the cost.
what I mean, so they do, but
Correct.
St. Charlie has that for 2 years. I don't know how full that one is. I never thought of even asking.
We got some space left. Coming out of Milwaukee, now down there, it's full. You can't find a place that isn't next to a tree or just
Mike,
a sidewalk or anything down
Do you
there.
know what the cost difference is between purchasing, let's say I'm gonna get cremated and my wife's gonna be buried? What's the difference between the cost of a plot in our cemetery compared to what this would be?
These would be more expensive. These would
By
almost
how
be,
much though? A
Almost
lot or double,
Really?
triple?
Double?
Okay.
Oh,
So basically,
wow.
you're balancing out the cost of the,
they could be double. That's what they wanna do, is they wanna market it, and they said that, this is coming from Tribute again, they said we should actually be raising our cemetery plots also.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And they said this would be also a marketing tool to sell more plots.
Yeah.
Because people are gonna come to see
I
this
agree
also.
with it.
Well, it's doubling isn't that bad,
We have
because
a
that lots
very
are what,
good
$300 now?
So-
Darlene would know better on that.
We don't know this exactly how much each of
That's
these
what I
would
mean.
cost,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of expenses related to an in-ground burial
Yes.
that don't exist in this. And
Right.
not only
We're
is
talking
this
just about
more,
the land.
I beg your
We're
pardon?
talking just about the land, not actually putting the casket in there. We're just talking about somebody buying the plot of land, correct?
But you really can't make a comparison there. Because if
That's
you're
what we were
talking,
just doing.
and I'm suggesting you really can't do that.
Right,
Because if you're
correct.
talking about a space in our cemetery, just the dirt, $750.
Yep.
Yeah.
$750.
Okay,
$12,000
But-
stone.
Now somebody has to dig the hole.
right,
Now somebody has to put a vault in the hole.
right.
Casket.
Casket,
10,000.
headstones,
10,000.
all
Right.
of those expenses that get incurred
Oh, yeah.
to go in the ground.
Right.
The reason I asked that, I'm kind of in a unique position with understanding all this. My cousin develops ad campaigns for funeral homes. And I helped him 6, 7 years in a row during the wintertime sell funeral home campaigns and got to talk to a lot of funeral home directors. And recently, as of the last, not the last 4 years, but prior to that, cremation is on a huge rise because of the cost. It's a lot cheaper to get cremated than it is to go through a big funeral service. Plus, people are time crunched. So it's a lot easier to do a cremation. And the memorial, everything is, faster, everything's going quicker. The reason I asked the difference between the cost of the ground and that is you're pretty much still cheaper doing this, even though you're tripling or quadrupling the space that you're gonna put it in. And with the cremation on the rise the way it is, it's kind of a no-brainer that, and I agree with
You
what
asked
Jeff
me to look
said
into
too,
it
that
further?
we've gotta start off with, the
You asked
plan.
them here if you want to look into it further.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you?
Yeah,
think-
that's.
I think we
I want the
should.
big show when I go. I'm worth the time and all that.
Because when
I'll
this
tell all
first,
4 boys.
when this
pony up.
first came up here, when this first came up years ago, there were a lot of people in favor of it.
Oh, I know.
So
I know.
that's why I gotta ask St. Charlie.
No, my father and my mother did that. I just say I'm worth the whole day. I want the
But-
whole deal.
I want the
And
whole
as
month.
far-
We don't have time.
You don't have to come.
So another part of this, though, you have to figure out if we're putting it in the lower cemetery or the upper
There
cemetery.
isn't room in the lower, is there?
So in the
Is
lower
there?
cemetery, what I would refer to as the historic Lutheran cemetery, that's this keyhole concept. Those of you that are familiar with it, this is an aerial photograph of that. You know that there is the circular drive up there, and the concept is to try and lay something in there. I think, frankly, I think staff likes this one to the left, whether it's down here or it's in the upper cemetery. But this is a concept for the lower cemetery. In the upper cemetery, I think we would do something more linear. Those of you that have been in the upper cemetery, off of Hill Street, at the very west end towards the pit, you may have noticed the Department of Public Works has gone through and removed some of the underbrush and the overgrowth at that end, really opened up that end there towards the pit. It's really quite a beautiful setting, and we would suggest that possibly that's the place for this in that area.
Not in the lower, but in the upper.
If
like
we
the
were going to
idea
do
of
it in the
the
upper cemetery, we would do it
I like the upper.
at the west end. It really has a pretty fabulous view out to the west at sunset. Down in the lower cemetery, you're in that keyhole. Works as well. You have the opportunity for certain, for
I'm not
vehicles to.
You're not
understanding
gonna
where
get
we
much
go
of-
from our
moving?
church.
You're not gonna get much of a view
Okay.
when you're in that
Okay.
box.
We
I think
want
it's
you
a
to
good
move
idea.
forward, and we're gonna have to
Yes.
find out
Yes.
those answers though. Because I'm all for the lower, because when everybody's saying, it's a marketing thing and all this, you're not gonna market anything off of Hill Street. Because no one can, I didn't find it the first 6 years I lived here. I didn't. But the other one you see, because you drive, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's simple, it's mathematics. You just have a lot more cars and you can see it.
But I found it, it's there.
Well, the upper one was getting
But I'd
full.
like them to see
That was
more.
important.
Well, I know.
But most of it, I believe, 3/4 of that belongs to St. Charlie.
I know, and that's where I'm gonna be, and I want people to be
Do
able
we
to
need a
overlook the
motion?
hill and not have to see a big
Yeah, it'd be
thing. They
nice
can
if
see
you
all
have
that
the-
and then see my stone,
You've got
the
a
big
nice
stone.
place to look, you can overlook it, well, to me, I don't care when I go
I
in the
know.
Do we need a
garage.
motion?
I'm not interested.
I don't
Make
think
a
we need a
motion
motion,
to-
we just need a
No.
direction.
We just need a direction to move
Go
forward
ahead.
with
Yeah,
this.
move forward.
It
Please
would be
continue.
ideal if you
Great
could,
idea.
Moving on.
it would be ideal if you could select a cemetery, but if you can't, we'll keep looking at that as well.
Yeah.
I
Well, we
would
could
like
be
to
here
keep
all
looking.
night deciding
Yeah.
that, because I'm
Yeah.
firm on the lower, because I do believe it'll make a big difference in selling them and people being there. But if someone really sways my mind and says, no, go with the upper.
Jeff, if I could though, when you say lower, you're still not gonna see it from West Capitol
Yeah,
because
you
it's
could
the
be up at the
upper
church.
annex. You have to go
Yes.
up behind the church into the
Northwest of your
woods.
church.
Yes.
See, it's way, halfway up the hill.
But
Is
I
there gonna
wanna
be any plots left
investigate.
on the upper?
Come to church with
Yes,
me on
there's
Sunday.
Yes.
plenty of them.
We'll show you.
Let's have an investigation.
But you're
I'll take
taking
you on a
Primus
tour.
real estate?
No, we have a,
Look into it.
we have an undeveloped section up there as well.
Can you look into the benefits of the upper and lower for us? But, I mean, if you'd like a motion, all right, well, let's,
He's gonna buy a double plot for
You
himself.
don't have to fight it out.
Excellent.
If you're not ready to fight it out now, we can keep looking at it.
Yeah, we can come back to you with more information.
how about it?
Perfect.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, for anybody tuning in, honestly, we were here, it's been a long meeting, so we try to lighten it up a little bit when we talk about certain things, especially when we're talking, no one has fun when they go to a cemetery. So, to lighten it up a little bit, and I do want the big show, when I go.
Well, I could overlook the gravel pit, because I dug that hole.
No, yeah. See, everybody's got their spot, I'm gonna stay away from it.
Can I just, as long as those two are here, I'd like to make an announcement for them. Sure. I want to thank you, your DPW department, for all the work they did over the last couple weeks. It's been phenomenal. And our roads, I just want to say, you can tell the difference. Am I allowed to say this?
I don't know, do it anyway.
You can
Could've
tell the
waited till
difference between a
announcements,
county
but-
road and a village road. I'll
Yes.
just say it that way.
course you can say
And you guys are awesome. And all the
Yeah, you've been
hours
doing
that
a
are
great
put
job.
And good luck tomorrow and Thursday.
All the rest of
Carry on.
Remember to slow down when
in.
you
If you
go
need
by my
coffee,
house.
stop by my office.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right, no.
Yeah, go by my
I'll
house
give you
a
the
little
key.
later, that 3:30. That 3:30 in the morning wakes me up.
All right, I do want to take a moment and just remind everybody, I know they're not here right now, but thank you to our officers that serve on our police department and all first responders that put their lives on the line to keep us safe. Every time something like what happens in Milwaukee reminds us of just how safe we are really kept, but how much of a danger people put themselves in, so that we can have that safety and stand here and laugh and not even worry about somebody doing something to us, and our loved ones. And at the same time, I do want to say that in the team that was serving that warrant in Milwaukee, next to the gentleman, was a Hartland resident who's on that team and puts his life on the line. He's a veteran. So I just ask that everybody keeps everybody that was there at that scene in your prayers. And, thank a police officer if you see him. It's a good time to do that, because it's a very unfortunate thing, and please keep the family of the fallen officer in your thoughts and prayers.
I'm gonna say one thing and then I'll end up with a little bit. I like that Dave, the administrator, I like that newsletter. That surprises me with information. I mean, I
the
like
memo.
that thing. So, I know we talked about it.
Announcements?
Oh,
Sorry.
You?
I'm gonna
Me?
add on to his.
I
on
was
to
going to
Jeff's.
too.
Well, me too.
Me first?
Maybe we can do it
Ladies
together.
first? I'm going to say the fire department. Were you going to?
No.
I'm going to say for the fire department for that -degree weather, and I don't know if anyone saw that there was a fire call.
Yes.
And the frozen helmets that I saw and what they went through, kudos to them, because also putting themselves on the line for that fire that happened. So there's a shout out to the fire department as well.
Yeah, we helped out with him.
Yep, town of Lisbon.
All right, now, to add on to yours, Jeff, with the gentleman that was next to Officer Rittner is a Hartland resident. He's a friend. I spoke with him today. They're actually going to do a fundraiser at his business, which is Hindsight Tactics, over by Culver's, February 23rd. We're gonna organize, a band, food, some other things, door prizes, that sort of thing, all to raise money for, Officer Rittner's family. He was recently married in 2016. He's got a 4-year-old son that he left.
Does he have his permits?
It's talking to the officer that was next to Officer Rittner today. It was disturbing, to say the least. It really hits home when it's somebody that you know. And the officer that I talked to, that's a friend, has been military for 28 years, Special Forces for 19, Afghanistan, Iraq, multiple times. Puts his life on the line for us nationally and locally as not only a SWAT member, but also a trainer for SWAT. So I am hoping that as a community, we all get together and on February 23rd, head over to Hindsight Tactics and show how much we really appreciate our officers and show them just how much we love them and that we need them and we care about them and their families. So again, February 23rd, Hindsight Tactics. It starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and it'll go till 9 o'clock at night. Please, everyone show up. Everyone's welcome.
Big.
Thank you. One quick one tonight from the fire department. If you recall, the spaghetti dinner fundraiser that I had offered to valet park your cars when it was so cold I stood up there and nobody showed up, as it was canceled and rescheduled for February 20th, next Wednesday, from 5 to 7 at Arrowhead High School North Campus. It'll be honor flight, spaghetti dinner fundraiser to help get more of our veterans on the honor flight to Washington, D.C. to see the sights and enjoy a day of commemorative bonding with fellow veterans. February 20th, 5 to 7, honor flight spaghetti dinner. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
Just very quickly, I'd like to give you an update on where we are with our salt. I know salt has become an issue in the news the last few days. We commit to about 1,600 tons of salt in May or June of last year for the following year. We've taken all of that delivery, and we're down to about half of the salt left. So I've committed to the reserve, which is another 320 tons. That'll be coming Thursday. And at that point, we're going to call the company and see if we can get more. At this point, we cannot. If not, we'll look at other options, but we're also looking at going into a conservation mode with salt and also bringing in sand as a last resort. We haven't typically used sand because it gets in the storm sewers, it's on the streets. But if necessary, we'll start mixing 50-50 if it gets real tight. A lot will depend on what the weather does to us in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and it's gonna warm up a ton.
I hope so.
If we could bake that with the markup in salt right now, we could make some money.
Yeah, we pay $68 a ton.
We just
So.
paid $30 for a bag.
You went to the wrong store.
I did.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Of course, you need a front
Very
end
good.
load.
Any other announcements? No other announcements. Now, at this time, we'll have a consideration of a motion to recess to closed session pursuant to state statutes 19.851G for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to adopted by the body with respect to the litigation which it is or is likely to become involved in pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or the conducting of other specified public businesses whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, namely the sex offender residency moratorium and the engagement of legal counsel for personnel matters, and to reconvene into open session pursuant to 19.952 for the purpose of considering any action as may be necessary and appropriate.
Now, wait a minute. That's the one I want.
I so move into closed session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Anson.
Aye.
Trustee Duro.
Aye.
Trustee Myers.
Aye.
Trustee Landwehr.
Smart.
Trustee Landwehr.
I
Trustee Swenson.
Aye.
Trustee Walshiger.
Aye.
President Vanderstel.
don't think we need
Aye. At this time, we'll take a brief recess as everything gets set up, and then we'll go into closed session.
Dave, are you going to get us?
In open session, in the closed session, we did discuss that the village has received that a person would like to have an appeal hearing regarding our registered sex offender moratorium on residency in Hartland. We are going to offer that appeal as it states in our ordinance, and I forgot that I still had gum in it, I'm sorry. But we will be offering that, and that's what we discussed in the closed session.
The date?
So I so move that we offer that session February 20th at 7 PM.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we offer an appeal hearing to a person that has requested an appeal to our sexual offender residency restriction moratorium, or moratorium. Any discussion? I don't think we need any, we just talked about it. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Everybody was in favor. If you feel we need a roll call, I'd be happy. Okay.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that this meeting be adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming.